Have you ever noticed that two people can face the exact same situation, yet produce completely different results? What makes the difference? I'll tell you what makes the difference. The most powerful moment in your life is when you finally understand that you are the architect of your destiny, not your boss, not the economy, not your background, not your limitations. You. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for permission, waiting for someone else to show them the way. They're waiting for a leader to follow when they should be learning to lead themselves. Follow no one. Learn to rule yourself. These words contain the fundamental truth about achievement that most will never grasp. The masses are always looking for someone to follow, someone to blame, someone to rescue them. But extraordinary results demand extraordinary ownership. 20 years ago, I met a man who grew up in poverty so severe that his family sometimes ate from dumpsters to survive. Today, he owns 3 successful businesses and donates millions to help children escape similar circumstances. When I asked him what changed, he didn't mention a lucky break or a generous benefactor. He said, "I made a decision that my circumstances would no longer dictate my future." One decision. That's all it takes to alter the entire trajectory of your life. Now let me ask you something. What decision have you been postponing that could change everything for you? Think about that for a moment. The quality of your life today is a direct result of the decisions you made or failed to make yesterday. And the quality of your life tomorrow will be determined by the decisions you make or fail to make today. Simple, isn't it? But not easy. Most people miss this fundamental principle. They blame external factors for their condition. The weather is too hot. The market is too competitive. Their spouse isn't supportive enough. Their boss doesn't appreciate them. They didn't have the right opportunities. It's always something or someone else. But here's the truth. If you want your life to change, you must change. If you want your circumstances to improve, you must improve. The moment you accept total responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you claim your power to change anything in your life. Personal responsibility isn't popular these days. It's much easier to find excuses than to find solutions. It's much more comfortable to blame others than to blame yourself. But excuses and blame have never built a single fortune, restored a single relationship, or created a single moment of happiness. I'm reminded of 2 employees who worked at the same company. Both were laid off during an economic downturn. The first one spent months complaining about how unfair the situation was, how the company had betrayed him, how the economy was rigged against hard-working people. The second one decided to use the unexpected free time to develop skills she'd always wanted to learn. Within 6 months, she had started a small business that eventually grew to be twice as profitable as her previous job. Same circumstance, different choice, vastly different outcome. Your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. What are you thinking about most of the time? Are you focused on what's wrong or what's possible? Are you consumed by fear or inspired by opportunity? Are you dwelling on past mistakes or planning future achievements? The thoughts you allow to dominate your mind will eventually dominate your life. This isn't mystical thinking. It's practical reality. Your thoughts determine your emotions. Your emotions influence your actions. Your actions produce your results. When you truly understand this sequence, you realize that changing your thinking isn't just positive psychology. It's the foundation of personal transformation. The person who thinks differently acts differently. The person who acts differently achieves differently. Self-mastery begins with thought mastery. Learn to rule your mind, or your mind will rule you. But there's something even more fundamental than controlling your thoughts, and that's understanding your philosophy. Your philosophy is your view of life, your attitude toward what happens to you, your belief system about how the world works. Philosophy drives attitude. Attitude drives action. Action drives results. Most people never take the time to develop their own philosophy. They inherit their parents' philosophy, or absorb whatever philosophy is most prevalent in their environment. They live by default rather than by design. Developing your own philosophy means questioning everything. It means evaluating every belief you hold and asking, is this serving me? Is this true? Is this mine? Or did I simply accept it without examination? When you build your own philosophy based on principles that align with natural laws, You create an internal compass that guides your decisions regardless of external circumstances. You no longer need to follow others because you've learned to follow principles. This is what it means to rule yourself. It doesn't mean you never learn from others. Quite the opposite. It means you deliberately choose what to learn, from whom to learn it, and how to apply that learning to your unique situation. Consider this. Every major breakthrough in human history came from someone who refused to blindly follow conventional wisdom. Every significant innovation emerged from a mind that dared to think differently. Every meaningful movement began with an individual who chose to stand alone, guided by their own vision rather than the crowd's direction. Now, I'm not suggesting you should reject all guidance or ignore valuable wisdom from those who have gone before you. That would be foolish. What I am suggesting is that you should filter all advice through your own principles and values. Take what serves your vision and leave what doesn't. The crowd is usually wrong. History has proven this time and again. The masses follow patterns of mediocrity because most people are more comfortable with familiar failure than with unfamiliar success. They would rather stay with the devil they know than venture into uncertainty, even when that uncertainty holds the promise of something better. To rule yourself means to break free from this herd mentality. It means having the courage to form your own conclusions and the discipline to act on them, especially when you stand alone in your convictions. I once asked a highly successful entrepreneur what was the most important factor in her success. I expected her to mention her business strategy or her talent for spotting market opportunities. Instead, she said, "I learned early on to quiet the noise of other people's opinions so I could hear the wisdom of my own judgment." That statement contains profound insight. Most people make decisions based on what others will think rather than what they themselves believe is right. They're more concerned with approval than with achievement. They value acceptance over excellence. To rule yourself, you must develop the capacity to stand alone, to be guided by your own North Star rather than the ever-shifting winds of public opinion. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or closed-minded. Self-rule requires extraordinary humility because you must constantly test your ideas against reality and be willing to change course when necessary. But it's your evaluation of reality that matters, not someone else's interpretation of it. The path to self-mastery demands rigorous honesty. You must be willing to look at yourself without flinching, to acknowledge your weaknesses without excuses, to confront your fears without hesitation. This kind of radical self-awareness is rare because it's painful. Most people prefer comforting lies to uncomfortable truths. But here's what those people don't understand. The pain of honest self-evaluation is temporary, while the pain of self-deception is permanent. When you confront reality, you gain the power to change it. When you deny reality, you remain its victim. Take inventory of your life right now. Where are you making excuses? Where are you blaming others? Where are you waiting for circumstances to change instead of changing yourself? These questions aren't meant to make you feel bad. They're meant to make you aware, and awareness is the first step toward transformation. The most significant battles you'll ever fight won't be against external enemies, but against your own limitations, your doubts, your fears, your bad habits, your limiting beliefs. Learn to win these inner battles, and the outer battles become much easier to overcome. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade of consistent effort. They get discouraged when immediate results don't appear, not realizing that success is rarely instant. It's the product of persistent, focused action over time. This is where self-discipline enters the picture. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's the ability to act according to your decisions rather than your emotions. Without discipline, your choices remain wishes, your plans remain dreams, and your potential remains unfulfilled. Discipline might seem like restriction, but it's actually the foundation of freedom. When you can trust yourself to do what you say you'll do, you earn self-respect. And self-respect is the strongest form of freedom there is. Consider this paradox. The person who follows every impulse, who yields to every desire, who avoids every discomfort isn't free. They're a slave to their own appetites and aversions. True freedom comes from the ability to choose your response regardless of external stimuli or internal urges. I know a man who completely transformed his health in his 50s after being obese for most of his adult life. When I asked him what finally made the difference after decades of failed attempts, he said, "I stopped negotiating with myself. I made a decision and then refused to revisit it every time my old habits called me back." That's the essence of self-rule, making clear decisions and then honoring those decisions, especially when temptation arises. The world is full of temptations, opportunities to trade what you want most for what you want now. The ability to delay gratification, to sacrifice present comfort for future reward, is one of the most reliable predictors of long-term success in any area of life. This capacity isn't innate. It's developed through practice. Each time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you strengthen your self-governance. Each time you follow through on a commitment despite difficulty, you increase your capacity for future follow-through. The compound effect of these seemingly small choices is extraordinary. Over time, the person who consistently makes slightly better decisions than average achieves dramatically better results than average. Imagine two people starting with identical circumstances. One makes decisions that are 5% better than the other, day after day, week after week, year after year. After a decade, the gap between their results isn't 5%, it's exponential. The compound effect of consistently superior choices creates outcomes that appear miraculous to outside observers. But there's no miracle involved. Just the predictable result of better decisions accumulated over time. And better decisions come from better thinking, which comes from a better philosophy. Your philosophy is like the operating system of your life. It runs silently in the background, influencing every choice, every reaction, every perception. Most people never bother to examine or upgrade this operating system. They run on whatever came pre-installed and then wonder why they keep getting the same results. To rule yourself means to deliberately design your philosophy rather than passively accept whatever you've absorbed from your environment. It means questioning assumptions, challenging conventions, and testing beliefs against reality. When you take control of your philosophy, you take control of your destiny. When you define your own principles and then live by them, you become internally directed rather than externally controlled. Most people live reactively. They respond to whatever happens to them. A small minority live proactively. They make things happen according to their vision. The difference isn't intelligence, talent, or opportunity. The difference is philosophy. The reactive person believes life happens to them. The proactive person believes they happen to life. One waits for conditions to change. The other creates conditions by changing themselves first. Which philosophy serves you better? Which gives you more power to determine your own outcomes? The answer is obvious. Yet most people cling to the reactive philosophy because it absolves them of responsibility. If circumstances control their lives, then they can't be blamed for their results. It's comfortable but ultimately powerless. Taking full responsibility feels heavier at first. It means acknowledging that you've contributed to your current situation through your choices and actions. It means accepting that no one is coming to save you. It means recognizing that waiting and hoping and wishing won't change anything. But once you push through that initial heaviness, responsibility becomes incredibly liberating. If your choices created your current reality, then different choices can create a different reality. If no one is coming to save you, then you're free to save yourself. If waiting doesn't work, then action becomes the obvious alternative. This shift from external locus of control to internal locus of control is the foundation of personal power. It's the difference between being a passenger in your life and being the driver. And remember, taking responsibility doesn't mean taking blame. Responsibility is about your response to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves. You didn't cause every situation you find yourself in, but you always control how you respond to that situation. Life isn't fair. Bad things happen to good people. Luck, both good and bad, plays a role in everyone's journey. The difference between the extraordinary and the ordinary isn't the absence of obstacles, but the response to those obstacles. I've studied successful people for decades, and they share a common trait: they refuse to view themselves as victims, even when they have legitimate reasons to do so. They acknowledge unfairness without becoming defined by it. They recognize injustice without surrendering to it. They face reality without being limited by it. The disciplines of personal excellence demand more than momentary motivation. They require systematic application of fundamental principles day after day, regardless of mood or circumstance. Excellence isn't an event, it's a habit, and habits, once established, determine your trajectory more powerfully than occasional bursts of effort. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary isn't talent or luck, but discipline. A genius with poor habits will accomplish less than an average person with excellent habits. And the beautiful truth is that while you can't control your natural talents, you can absolutely control your habits. How many potentially great lives have been wasted because of poor habits? How many dreams have died from lack of discipline? The graveyards are full of unfulfilled potential, People who could have achieved greatness but settled for mediocrity because they couldn't master. Don't let that be your story. The first discipline of personal excellence is the discipline of thought. Your mind will always move toward your dominant thoughts. Most people never realize how much control they have over what they think about. They believe thoughts just happen to them, rather than understanding they can direct their mental focus deliberately. Start monitoring your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking about what you don't want, redirect your attention to what you do want. When you find yourself dwelling on problems, shift your focus to solutions. When you notice yourself thinking about the past, bring your attention back to the present or the future. This mental discipline is foundational because everything else flows from it. Actions follow thoughts as surely as water flows downhill. Master your thinking, and you'll master your actions. Master your actions, and you'll make your results. The second discipline is the discipline of goal setting. Without clear targets, your efforts scatter. Most people have vague wishes rather than specific goals. They say things like, I want to be successful or I want to be healthy, without defining what success or health means to them, or establishing clear metrics to measure progress. A real goal includes three elements. It's specific, it's measurable, and it has a deadline. I want to lose weight is a wish. I will lose 20 pounds by December 31st is a goal. The specificity forces clarity. The measurability enables accountability. The deadline creates urgency. Write your goals down. There's something powerful about transferring a goal from your mind to paper. It solidifies your commitment and sends a signal to your subconscious that this matters. I've worked with thousands of successful people, and not one achieved significant success without written goals. But goal setting without goal achieving is just wishful thinking. That's where the third discipline comes in. The discipline of daily action. Your life moves in the direction of your most consistent actions, not your best intentions. Small actions repeated consistently create massive results over time. This is the principle of compounding, and it works with actions just as it works with investments. A person who improves just 1% daily will be 37 times better after a year. That's not 37% better. That's 37 times better. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can accomplish in a day, and dramatically underestimate what they can accomplish in a year of consistent daily effort. They get discouraged by slow initial progress and give up, not realizing that progress almost always accelerates over time as compounding kicks in. I know a woman who started writing just 300 words every morning. That's about one page, not very impressive on its own, but she did it consistently, day after day, without fail. 3 years later, she had written 4 books, established herself as an authority in her field, and created a second income stream that eventually allowed her to leave her job. A small daily discipline, maintained with consistency, completely transformed her life. What's your daily discipline? What one action, if performed consistently for the next 3 years, would revolutionize your results? It could be 30 minutes of focused learning, 20 minutes of exercise, 10 sales calls, or writing 1 page. The specific action matters less than the consistency with which you perform it. The fourth discipline is the discipline of time management. Time is the great equalizer. Everyone gets the same 24 hours daily. The difference between achievement and mediocrity often comes down to how those hours are invested. Most people spend their time. Successful people invest their time. There's a profound difference. When you spend something, it's gone. When you invest something, it returns to you multiplied. Start treating time as your most precious resource, because it is. You can always earn more money, but you can never earn more time. Once a minute passes, it's gone forever. This perspective transforms how you make decisions about your hours. Begin each day with a clear plan. Know your priorities before the day's demands start coming at you. If you don't set your own agenda, someone else will set it for you, and their priorities will rarely align with your long-term success. Block time for your most important activities. Don't just hope you'll find time for crucial tasks. Schedule them as appointments with yourself, and honor those appointments as seriously as you would a meeting with someone important. In fact, what could be more important than a meeting with the architect of your future? Eliminate the non-essential. Most people's lives are cluttered with activities that contribute nothing to their most important goals. They say yes to too many things out of habit, guilt, or fear of missing out. Learning to say no politely but firmly is a critical skill for anyone serious about achieving excellence. The fifth discipline is the discipline of continuous learning. In a rapidly changing world, the person who stops learning stops growing, and the person who stops growing starts dying. The average person reads less than one book per year after finishing formal education. The average CEO reads 50 to 60 books annually. This is not coincidental. Leaders are readers. They understand that books offer the most efficient way to benefit from another person's lifetime of experience and wisdom. Establish a regular reading habit. 30 minutes daily adds up to about 25 books per year, enough to put you in the top 1% of continuous learners. If reading isn't your preferred method, use audiobooks, podcasts, online courses, or mentorship. The medium matters less than the consistent acquisition of new knowledge and skills. Focus your learning on 3 areas: your field, leadership, and personal development. Become an expert in your domain. Learn to influence and inspire others, and continually upgrade your mindset and habits. This 3-dimensional growth creates value that the marketplace rewards generously. The 6th discipline is the discipline of health management. Your body is the vehicle that carries your dreams. If the vehicle breaks down, the dreams go nowhere. Yet many ambitious people neglect their health in pursuit of achievement, not realizing that physical vitality is the fuel for sustained success. You need just 3 simple habits: regular exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate sleep. There's no need for complexity here. Move your body for at least 30 minutes daily. Eat more natural foods and fewer processed ones. Sleep 7 to 8 hours most nights. These basic disciplines, maintained consistently, will give you the energy to excel when others flag. I know a business owner who transformed his company by focusing first on his health. For years, he worked 14-hour days, lived on fast food and coffee, averaged 5 hours of sleep, and wondered why his business plateaued. When he finally committed to exercising daily, cleaning up his diet, and getting proper rest, his energy doubled, his thinking clarified, and his business grew 40% within a year. His capacity for effective work increased dramatically even though his working hours decreased. The 7th discipline is the discipline of association. You will inevitably move in the direction of the people you associate with most closely. Their attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors will rub off on you, for better or worse. Evaluate your 5 closest friends or colleagues. Are they pulling you up or dragging you down? Do they inspire excellence or normalize mediocrity? Do their conversations center on problems or possibilities? Do they cheer your growth or subtly sabotage it? This evaluation isn't about judging others. It's about being intentional about your influences. Sometimes the hardest part of personal growth is recognizing that certain relationships, even long-standing ones, may not support your evolution. You don't necessarily need to end these relationships, but you may need to limit their influence while actively seeking connections with people who exemplify the qualities you want to develop. As the old saying goes, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. The 8th discipline is the discipline of character development. Technical skills might get you to the top, but only strength of character will keep you there. The marketplace eventually exposes those with talent, but no integrity. Character isn't formed in moments of great challenge. It's created through the thousands of small choices you make when no one is watching. Each time you keep a promise, speak the truth, admit a mistake, or do what's right despite a cost, you strengthen your character. Each time you break a promise, tell a lie, shift blame, or choose convenience over correctness, you weaken it. The trust of others is earned through consistency between your words and actions. When the two align, people develop faith in your reliability. This faith translates into opportunities, partnerships, and possibilities that remain closed to those with questionable character. A solid reputation takes years to build, but can be damaged in moments of poor judgment. Guard it carefully. In an age of shortcuts, the person who takes the long road of integrity stands out sharply from the crowd. The 9th discipline is the discipline of financial management. Money is neither good nor evil. It's simply a tool. Like any tool, its value depends on how skillfully you use it. Financial freedom doesn't come from what you earn, but from what you keep and how wisely you deploy it. Most people work 40 or more years yet retire with little to show for it. Why? Because they never mastered the basic disciplines of spending less than they earn, investing the difference consistently, avoiding bad debt, and allowing compound interest to work its magic over time. Start paying yourself first. Before any other expense, Set aside at least 10% of your income for long-term investing. Live on the remaining 90%. This one habit, maintained over a working lifetime, virtually guarantees financial independence. Create multiple streams of income. Depending on a single source is increasingly risky in today's economy. Start a side business, develop investments, or monetize a skill. Begin small, but begin somewhere. Financial resilience comes from diversity of income, just as natural resilience comes from diversity of species. The 10th discipline is the discipline of contribution. True fulfillment comes not from what you get, but from what you give. The most miserable people I've met are those focused entirely on their own needs and desires. The most joyful are those who use their talents and resources to improve the lives of others. Find ways to add value beyond what you're paid to do. Look for opportunities to serve, teach, encourage, and lift others. This isn't just good ethics, it's good strategy. The marketplace rewards those who give more than they take. Contribution creates connections, builds goodwill, and opens doors that remain closed to the self-absorbed. I know a salesman who made it his mission to become a genuine resource for his clients, often referring them to competitors when those competitors offered something better suited to the client's needs. His commissions initially suffered, but his reputation soared. Within 3 years, he had more business than he could handle, because customers knew he put their interests first. His generosity eventually produced greater prosperity than self-interest ever could have. These 10 disciplines, practiced consistently, create excellence in any field. They aren't exciting or revolutionary, they're fundamental and timeless. Therein lies both their power and the reason many people overlook them. We humans tend to be attracted to the novel and flashy, while undervaluing the basic principles that actually determine success. The most successful people I've studied aren't doing extraordinary things. They're doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. They've mastered themselves first, then their crafts. They've learned that direction, not intention, determines destination. They understand that what you do daily matters more than what you do occasionally. Now consider this. If you were to implement just one of these disciplines completely, your life would significantly improve. If you were to implement 3, you would create extraordinary results. If you were to implement all 10, you would become unstoppable. But here's the paradox. Implementing even one discipline completely requires ruling yourself. It demands that you value delayed gratification over immediate pleasure, that you choose purpose over impulse, that you act according to priorities rather than preferences. The capacity for self-rule develops through practice. Each time you follow through on a commitment despite discomfort, you strengthen your self-governance muscles. Each time you override an unproductive impulse, you increase your capacity for future self-control. Start with one discipline. Master it until it becomes automatic. Then add another. This sequential approach prevents overwhelm and builds momentum through visible progress. Remember, excellence is a habit, not an act. The greatest battles you'll ever fight won't be against external competitors, but against your own resistance to doing what you know you should do when you don't feel like doing it. Win those internal battles consistently and the external victories will follow naturally. Your potential is nearly limitless, but your willpower is not. That's why successful people don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems, routines, and habits that make excellence automatic. They create environments that support their best intentions rather than sabotaging them. If you want to read more, keep books visible and accessible while putting the television remote in a drawer. If you want to exercise regularly, lay out your workout clothes the night before and schedule sessions with a partner who expects your participation. If you want to improve your finances, set up automatic transfers to savings and investment accounts before you have a chance to spend that money. Don't depend on feeling motivated. Motivation comes and goes like the weather, unreliable and beyond your control. Discipline, by contrast, is a decision renewed daily through deliberate choice. It's the commitment to follow through regardless of emotional state. Think about what this means. You don't have to feel good to do good. You don't have to feel motivated to take action. You don't have to feel confident to move forward. The professional does what needs to be done whether they feel like it or not. And this is precisely what separates professionals from amateurs in any field. The amateur waits for inspiration. The professional creates regardless of its presence. The amateur depends on optimal conditions. The professional produces despite circumstances. The amateur quits when progress slows. The professional persists through plateaus, knowing that breakthrough often follows resistance. Which will you choose to be? Every day you cast votes for the person you're becoming through your actions and inactions. Each time you follow through on a commitment, you vote for discipline. Each time you succumb to distraction, you vote for disorder. Each time you choose courage over comfort, you vote for growth. Each time you opt for the familiar over the valuable, you vote for stagnation. The cumulative effect of these votes determines your destiny, not your intentions, not your desires, not your hopes, your consistent actions. This might seem harsh, but it's actually liberating. It means your future isn't determined by your past, your circumstances, your limitations, or other people's opinions. It's determined by the choices you make from this moment forward. Consider a ship sailing across the ocean. A 1-degree change in direction seems insignificant near the shore, but maintained over thousands of miles, it leads to an entirely different destination. Your daily disciplines are like that directional adjustment. Small changes that applied consistently completely transform your destination. Mastering yourself doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong practice, a daily recommitment to excellence. There will be days when you fall short, when old habits reassert themselves, when temporary failure tests your resolve. These setbacks don't define you unless you allow them to stop you. Now, thinking beyond personal achievement, what happens when you overcome your internal obstacles? What becomes possible when you learn to rule yourself instead of being ruled by circumstances, emotions, or the expectations of others? The greatest barriers to your success aren't external. They're not the economy, the competition, your background, or your lack of connections. The greatest barriers are internal, the limiting beliefs, destructive habits, and self-sabotaging behaviors that keep you trapped in mediocrity. Let me ask you something. What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? Take a moment to consider that question seriously. The answers that come to mind reveal your deeper aspirations, the goals you've kept hidden, perhaps even from yourself, because you fear disappointment. That fear, the fear of failure, is one of the most common internal barriers to greatness. It paralyzes potential and prevents action. The tragedy is that most people never realize that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every significant achievement comes through a series of failures that provide essential education. Consider Thomas Edison, who famously made over 1,000 unsuccessful attempts before inventing a working light bulb. When asked about his failures, he replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." This perspective transforms failure from an indictment of your worth to simply feedback about your approach. The second major internal barrier is the fear of rejection. Humans are social creatures with a deep need for acceptance and belonging. This evolutionary programming served us well when rejection from the tribe meant physical danger. But in the modern world, this fear often prevents us from expressing our authentic selves, taking social risks, or standing alone when principles require it. I know an entrepreneur who developed a revolutionary product, but hesitated to approach investors because she feared their judgment. For 2 years, her invention gathered dust, while she gathered excuses. When she finally faced her fear and pitched to investors, she received 9 rejections before getting a yes on her 10th attempt. That single yes led to a multi-million-dollar business. The 9 rejections didn't harm her. Her fear of them did. The third internal barrier is perfectionism. The belief that you must do something flawlessly or not at all. Perfectionism masquerades as high standards, but it's actually fear in disguise. Fear of criticism, fear of not measuring up, fear of vulnerability. It's also one of the most effective forms of procrastination. Perfectionism keeps you polishing when you should be publishing, planning when you should be acting, preparing when you should be performing. It's the enemy of completion and the thief of achievement. Excellence, not perfection, should be your standard. Excellence is attainable. Perfection is a mirage that keeps you permanently dissatisfied and perpetually stuck. The fourth barrier is the comfort addiction. Humans naturally gravitate toward comfort and away from discomfort, but growth happens only outside your comfort zone. Every meaningful achievement requires temporary discomfort. The effort of learning new skills, the awkwardness of attempting something unfamiliar, the strain of pushing beyond current limitations. Most people choose the pain of mediocrity over the pain of growth because mediocrity's pain is familiar and predictable. They know exactly how much it hurts to settle for less than they're capable of achieving. Growth pain, by contrast, is unfamiliar and therefore frightening. But here's the crucial difference. The pain of growth is temporary and leads to expansion. The pain of remaining the same is permanent and leads to contraction. Choose your pain wisely. The fifth internal barrier is what psychologists call the fixed mindset. The belief that your qualities are carved in stone, that you have certain fixed abilities, a certain fixed personality, and a certain fixed moral character. This mindset makes every challenge a threat to your identity. If you fail, it must mean you're not smart enough, talented enough, or good enough. By contrast, the growth mindset sees qualities as cultivatable through effort and practice. Intelligence can be developed. Skills can be acquired. Even personality traits can be changed. This mindset transforms challenges from threats into opportunities for development. The person with a fixed mindset avoids difficulty to protect their self-image. The person with a growth mindset embraces difficulty as the pathway to mastery. One remains stagnant, the other constantly evolves. The sixth barrier is what I call the someday syndrome, the tendency to postpone action until some mythical future time when conditions will be perfect. I'll start my business when the economy improves. I'll write my book when I have more time. I'll fix my health when work settles down. But someday isn't a day of the week. It's a place where dreams go to die. The perfect time to begin is now, with whatever resources and circumstances you currently have. Conditions will never be ideal. Those who achieve greatness don't wait for perfect conditions. They create progress within imperfect ones. The seventh barrier is comparison, measuring your progress, possessions, or appearance against others rather than against your previous self. Comparison is the thief of joy and the poison of motivation. It either inflates your ego unnecessarily or deflates your spirits pointlessly. There will always be someone ahead of you and someone behind you on every metric you can measure. The only meaningful comparison is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you growing? Are you improving? Are you becoming more of who you want to be? These are the questions that matter. The eighth barrier is victimhood thinking, the belief that your life is primarily determined by forces beyond your control. This mindset focuses on what's happening to you rather than what you can do about it. It seeks blame rather than solutions, excuses rather than responsibility. To overcome this barrier, shift your internal questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of wondering who's to blame, consider, "What can I do to improve this situation?" Instead of thinking, "Life is happening to me," realize that life is responding to me. This shift doesn't deny the reality of genuine hardship or injustice. It simply recognizes that your response to circumstances ultimately matters more than the circumstances themselves. The ninth barrier is immediate gratification, choosing what feels good now over what will feel even better later. In a world of one-click shopping, on-demand entertainment, and instant messaging, the muscle of delayed gratification has atrophied for many people. Yet every worthy achievement requires postponing immediate pleasure for future fulfillment. The student sacrifices social time for study time. The entrepreneur reinvests profits instead of spending them. The athlete endures painful training for future victory. The ability to delay gratification consistently is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success. It's a skill that can be developed through practice, starting with small decisions and working up to larger ones. The 10th and perhaps most insidious internal barrier is what I call the deserve trap, the belief that you must already be or feel worthy before you can take action toward your goals. I don't deserve success until I've overcome all my flaws. I don't deserve love until I've fixed all my issues. I don't deserve health until I've atoned for my past choices. This backward thinking keeps countless people stuck. Worthiness isn't the prerequisite for action. It's the product of action. You don't build confidence and then take risks. You take risks and then build confidence. You don't perfect yourself and then pursue your dreams. You pursue your dreams and in the process perfect yourself. These 10 internal barriers: fear of failure, fear of rejection, perfectionism, comfort addiction, fixed mindset, someday syndrome, comparison, victimhood thinking, immediate gratification, and the deserve trap, form the prison that confines most people to lives far smaller than what they're capable of living. But here's the liberating truth. These barriers aren't facts of your existence. They're habitual thought patterns that can be recognized, challenged, and changed. They're the mental equivalent of ropes that appear to bind you, but would fall away with one firm step forward. So how do you break free? How do you overcome these internal obstacles and claim your potential? First, recognize that awareness is the beginning of transformation. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Start paying attention to your internal dialogue. Notice when you're making excuses, procrastinating, comparing yourself to others, or falling into any of these mental traps. Simply bringing these patterns into consciousness begins to weaken their hold. Second, challenge your limiting beliefs. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I can't, I'm not good enough, or that's impossible for someone like me, stop and question that assumption. Ask, is this actually true? What evidence supports this belief? What evidence contradicts it? Who says I can't? Where did I learn this limitation? Most limiting beliefs crumble under serious examination because they're based not on facts but on misinterpretations, outdated information, or other people's fears projected onto you. Third, surround yourself with people who expand your sense of possible. Jim Rohn famously said that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, expectations, and behaviors invisibly shape yours. If everyone around you settles for mediocrity, excellence feels foreign. If everyone complains about circumstances, personal responsibility feels unreasonable. If everyone plays small, playing big feels arrogant. Find people who make growth feel normal and stagnation feel uncomfortable. Their standards will elevate yours through simple exposure. Fourth, create small, consistent wins. Big goals can feel overwhelming, triggering many of the barriers we've discussed. Break them down into such small steps that failure becomes virtually impossible. Then celebrate each completed step. These tiny victories serve 2 crucial purposes. They create momentum that makes larger successes more likely, and they build your identity as someone who follows through, someone who achieves, someone who can trust themselves. This identity shift is far more powerful than any temporary surge of motivation. Fifth, develop implementation intentions. Don't just set goals. Plan specifically when, where, and how you'll take action toward them. Research shows that people who form implementation intentions, cold, on Tuesday at 7 a.m., I will run for 20 minutes on the trail near my house, are significantly more likely to follow through than those who form only goal intentions. Cold, I will exercise more. These concrete plans bypass many internal barriers because they eliminate decisions in the moment. The decision has already been made. The only question is whether you'll honor your commitment to yourself. Sixth, practice the 5-second rule. When you feel resistance to taking an action you know you should take, count backward from 5 and then move physically. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. This simple technique interrupts the overthinking that feeds procrastination and activates the prefrontal cortex, the action-taking part of your brain. Use it to get out of bed when the alarm rings, to start difficult conversations, to begin challenging tasks, or whenever you feel the pull of delay. This isn't magical thinking. It's a practical tool for overriding the brain's natural hesitation before unfamiliar or uncomfortable actions. Seventh, adopt the identity of the person you want to become. Don't just pursue goals. Embody the characteristics of someone who would achieve those goals naturally. Ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do in this situation? What would a confident person think about this challenge? How would a focused person handle these distractions? Acting as if you already are who you aspire to be accelerates transformation. The gap between your behavior and your desired identity creates psychological tension that your brain will work to resolve, either by reverting to old behaviors or by adopting the new identity more fully. Make the latter more likely by consciously practicing the thoughts and actions of your ideal self. Eighth, create environmental triggers that make good behaviors easier and poor behaviors harder. Your willpower is limited. Use it to design your environment rather than constantly fighting it. Want to read more? Keep books visible and the television remote in a drawer. Want to eat healthier? Keep nutritious foods at eye level in your refrigerator and less healthy options out of sight. Want to exercise consistently? Sleep in your workout clothes and set your shoes by the bed. These environmental adjustments work because they require decision-making in moments of strength rather than moments of temptation. They make the right choices the easy choices. Ninth, use the power of public commitment. Tell trusted friends about your goals. Join groups focused on similar aims. Work with an accountability partner or coach. When others expect you to follow through, you're more likely to do so.